Good evening, viewer. Corey Anderson here. Today, we're going to go over section 13 out of our lovely book, You by Charles F. Haanel. And today we're going to talk about the emotions, which is a great subject to talk about. Okay, before we get started with this chapter, we just want to go a little bit over how we've been doing. It's been several weeks. It's actually been a little bit over a month since I made my last video talking about chapter 12. This last month, I ended up getting a job working at boot camps, and which is great. I really enjoy it. It took me the first 2 weeks. I wasn't too sure if I really liked it all that much. But now it's really cool. We're learning everybody's name. Like, we're starting to warm up. Like, all the members are starting to warm up to me as being their new trainer, because you know how it is when something's new. You got to get used to its energy. Used to however it is and how it does things, and the way it works and how it just is. And so we've been getting very used to that. We've been working morning shifts. We run the 2 morning classes at 5 and 5:45 a.m. Even today, we ran the evening classes as well, the first 2 and the last 2. Sometimes they have us substituting the last 2 classes as well, but for sure, we're running the first 2 in the morning. And today and yesterday, it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We had about 16, 17 members in the first classes, and about up to 12 in the second class. So it was pretty packed. The boot camp place isn't like the biggest place in the world. It's like the size of 2 tiny stores put together. Like really small stores, like hair salon type stores. And it's great. We have a lot of great equipment. The people there are awesome. They're really cool. Which is good. I feel like I needed this in my life again. After working at LA Fitness and stopped working there for a while, I really missed my old clients. Like building that relationship. You're with that person for the last 6 months, seeing them 2-3 times every single week. You really get to know that person, who they are, like how they react to things, what they think about things. When you ask them about certain things and you start to delve more into how they think, what they think about, and how what they've gone through and their experiences, is going to help you with yours. All that was, I miss that a lot, and I still miss it to this day. I still see my old clients working with the new trainer now, which is awesome. I've met her. She's really great, and I have a lot of respect for her as well as for my clients, and I really feel that they're in good hands. So I'm not really too worried so much about that, because just yesterday I realized that boot camp really is the next step in my training career, because just last year I got my NASM certificate, and this year I put everything I learned into practice. I had 8 months experience as one-on-one personal training, 2.5 months doing it on my own outside of a gym, and now I'm doing boot camp trainings, and I'm about to finish my first month doing that. And as you can tell, I don't know if you can hear it, but like just my voice right now, I'm just kind of getting it back from trying to not only yell at over the music, but making sure I'm loud enough that everybody in the room can hear you. And sometimes, man, like the last week was really tough, because just after, like, during the first class, just trying to make sure you're loud enough, it could give you kind of a headache, But with all that being said, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And it's definitely been a big eye-opener on what we're doing. It's amazing that no matter what you do, or how old you are, there's always something new to learn every single day. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, section 13 on the emotions. of our lovely book, You by Charles F. Haanel. So let's see what he has in store for us. So, your emotions will invariably seek to express themselves in action. The emotion of love will therefore seek expression in demonstrations of loving service. Emotions of hate will seek expression in vindictive or hostile actions. Emotions of shame will seek expressions in actions corresponding to the nature of the cause which brought the emotion into being. Emotions of sorrow will bring the tear ducts into violent actions. And we could all see that just by reading this, just connect it with yourself. When you're doing something you love, think about how you feel about why you're doing it. The things you love doing. You just feel great when you do it. And that feeling, seeks expressions and demonstrations of loving service, as if you were, if you didn't like something so much, or if you hated it, okay, that emotion will seek expressions through, your thoughts, through your feelings, through your body language, what you're vibrating towards, because you're moving in that state of being, that state of consciousness. From this, you will see that the emotions always focalize the energies upon the idea or desire which is seeking an outlet. Okay, so what he's saying here, we must call our emotions into being to focalize our thoughts, to bring them into action, to vitalize them with life and energy, because a thought without emotions is just a thought. You must connect that thought with emotions to actually give feeling to it, so it could actually feel like it exists in your life, instead of just thinking about it all day. That's, I know I mentioned in another video, that's the difference between somebody who goes to the gym every day compared to someone who doesn't. The person who goes every day has an emotional connection with going to the gym, as compared to the person who doesn't go. They have no emotional connection to the gym whatsoever. And this is also, you could also compare this to how he gave us that magnifying glass example, okay, with our thoughts and concentration in the Master Key System. If you haven't been with us in that book, I strongly encourage you to check it out. But the Master Key System, he talks about how concentrating your thoughts along certain lines, keeping your conscious mind and your attention focused on one specific thing. Because when you focus in that thought on one thing, it's like a laser, okay? Kind of like if you get a magnifying glass and you focus the rays of the sunlight, okay? All that light focuses on one point and it becomes like a ray of light, and it burns whatever it's focused on. Same thing with here, whatever thoughts you have and you're concentrating on, and when you bring emotions to it, the emotions could be like the sunlight, okay, like the rays from the sun, and your thoughts and concentration are like the magnifying glass, okay? With your thoughts, you're focalizing the emotions, or like with your emotions, you're giving power and vitality and life to your thoughts. It's amazing when when you're really delving and thinking in terms of that. When the emotions find an outlet through the proper channel, all is well. But if they are forbidden or repressed, the desire or wish will continue to gather energy, and if for any reason it is finally suppressed, it will pass into the subconscious, where it will remain. And that is a vital point that I want to talk a little bit about. Okay, it's very important that we don't suppress whatever it is that we're feeling. If I know this by personal experience, because if you do that, like he's saying, it'll pass into the subconscious, where it will remain. Even if you consciously forget about it for a time, it's still subconsciously going to be there. And when something happens that triggers that, all of a sudden all those emotions are going to come back that you didn't deal with before, because you hidden it within yourself. It's like you locked it away within yourself. And now that you experience this thing, it's almost like it opened back what you tried to hide away, and then all these things start coming back into your life. Why am I feeling this way again? Why am I thinking about this again? That happened to me 2 years ago. That has nothing to do with my life now. But if you don't deal with it in the proper way, and you suppress it, then it's going to be with you. I've learned that recently through personal experience. When it comes to and just to be real with you guys, I'm not here to make up any stories, but just with my last relationship, it hurt, just the way it ended with that person, and how things didn't end up really going too well, and it just, I've realized that I still haven't completely recovered from it, because when I actually had the opportunity to be with somebody else, that kind of kept me back, because then then all these emotions that I hidden away was coming back, that I didn't quite deal with before, because at the time it was just, nobody wants to deal with that at that time, when they have too many other things that they're going through, trying to deal with at that time. It's crazy, like how all this just, it stays with you if you don't know how to deal with it. Such a suppressed emotion becomes a complex. Such a complex is a living thing. It has vital power and force, and the vital force retains its intensity undiminished throughout the entire lifetime unless released. Just like we were saying, it gets locked away within you, and it stays there until you let it out. In fact, it gains in violence with every similar thought, desire, wish, or memory. The emotion of love causes the solar plexus to become active, which in turn influences the action of the glands, which produce a vibratory effect on certain organs of the body, which creates passions. Okay, remember, the solar plexus is located in the ganglionic mass in the back of the stomach. Okay, it is known to be the point of distribution for most of the energy throughout the entire body. Okay, it is the solar plexus, the sympathetic nervous system, that it's our entire being rests upon for its vitality and growth. And even in our chapter of what we're learning today in our Master Key System, because we're on section 20, we're talking about pranic ether, the spiritual energy which proceeds and penetrates and created all things, in which everything came out of. This ether, we're breathing in the breath of life, the Spirit of God, with every breath that we are breathing. Okay, and this breath of life travels all the way down our nostrils to the solar plexus. Okay, and that's what gives life to the solar plexus. And the solar plexus moves on, giving life, energy, and vitality to every other part of the being, because the conscious portion of our mind relies on the subconscious portion of our mind for its vitality. And the subconscious being the sympathetic nervous system and the solar plexus. The emotion of hate causes an acceleration of certain bodily activities, which change the chemical organization of the blood and eventuates in semi-paralysis, or if long continued, in complete paralysis. Because remember, even our body itself is nothing but chemical actions, and when we have certain emotions, we're releasing those certain hormones within our bloodstream, making us feel a certain way, because it's moving through our bloodstream, and that in turn goes and manifests through each and every single cell of our body, which we've learned even from here, that each and every single individual cell that we have is endowed with its own psychic ability and its intelligence, and it chooses its own food and nutrition from the foods that you eat, because some cells need more protein than others, and some cells need more carbs than others. Okay, and they choose however much they get from the bloodstream. Emotions may be expressed through mental, verbal, or physical action, and they usually find expression in one of these three ways and are therefore released, and this energy dissipated in a few hours. But when by reason of honor, pride, anger, hatred, or bitterness, these emotions are buried from consciousness, they become mental abscesses in the subconscious realm and cause bitter suffering. And that's something, like I just said, and that I'm personally learning about, because I notice that I do things, it's something I've just been talking about, the people that hired me, because they talk about the books that they read, and they have AA groups, supporting groups. And it's amazing the stories that even they have, the years and years that they've been, doing certain things to hide certain things away. Now that they've learned to excuse me, I got the hiccups. That they've learned to release all that from their life and to figure out why they're even doing that in the first place. Why do I feel this way? How can I make this better for myself? If this is what I'm doing when I feel this way, maybe I should stop doing it and try something else, because this is not making me feel better. Like marijuana, for example. Yeah, to a point it may make you feel better, but from personal experience, it lowers your vibrations, it slows your mind down, it slows your thinking process. Yeah, for a time being, it allows you to think on a different level, but at the same time, it's the after effects brings you down, and you wonder if it's even worth doing in the first place, because like anything else, it brings you up and then it brings you down, and then you have to find that median. When we could just stay here the entire time, subtle and just working at it. I'm personally still working at that myself. I have phases in myself when I will go a while without doing it. Then if I do it, I go a while doing it, and then I go a while again without doing it. And it's those times that I don't do it where I feel great. Physically I get in the best shape of my life. I'm currently not there like I was, but I know how to get there. It just gets to the point of actually doing it, because it's hard. You just got to get up and do it hard. The thing is, just you got to get your mind back into it. You have to redevelop that mindset, because that's where it is. And if you're not subtle and you're doing things that change your consciousness, then you're going to be changing your mindset, okay? And you're not going to be stable. I know from personal experience. Moving on, such a complex may find reverse expression. For instance, a man who has been forbidden to express his love for a woman may develop into a woman hater. He may be irritated and annoyed by the very sight of feminine things. He may appear to be bold, independent, and domineering, but this will be but the camouflage by which he is attempting to cover up the craving for love and sympathy that has been denied him. And when I first read that statement, it just completely blew my mind, because I see that that's kind of what happened to me. You try to build that wall so you can keep that person. Even if you're seeing them every day after all that happened, you sort of build this wall and you put your head down. You just start hitting the books. You do the best you can for yourself at that moment in time, because that's really all you can do. You have to do what you can to keep yourself feeling better, because it doesn't really feel good when somebody leaves you a little bit after your 21st birthday. You're still in the same class, and then a few months later they're already with somebody else. While you're still there, like hey, we were together for 2 years, and it sucks. And I've been single these last 2 years, and just recently I've been figuring out that this is what I had within me, and I'm learning how to release it and to let go of all of that, once and for all, so I could move on with my life, so Corey could to keep shining his light, as I was told, so we could keep shining our light and love in that aspect of our life, because the more we keep ourselves contained and letting it out, we're denying the person that we're really supposed to be with that as well. So let's continue. Should this man eventually select a mate, he will unconsciously select one of an opposite type to the one who caused him sorrow. The attachment has been reversed. He wants no memories. Suffering is an emotion, and it opens the doors of the subconscious mind. The thought, quote, "This is what I get for wrongdoing," end quote, produces a conclusion, quote, "Well, I'll never do that again," end quote. This is a reformation suggestion that goes down into the subconscious mind by the auto-suggestion of the individual suffering penance. Penance, Remember, suggestion is something that received through the physical senses, that suggests something, that makes you think a certain way, makes you feel a certain way, making you have a certain opinion on that thing. One thing is suggestions from others. It's known as heterosuggestion. Everything in this book is a heterosuggestion from Charles F. Haanel's mind to our minds. Everything in here is a suggestion. Even if it's all science and basic facts, it's still a suggestion because it's being brought to you from one mind to another. As to where anything that we can make this self-suggestions, we take everything we're learning from here and we start iterating it within yourself. Like, I am courageous. I am willing to do this. I am able to do this. I have the power to do whatever I want. These are self-suggestions, also known as affirmations, because you're affirming to yourself, like, hey, I really can do this. Because you have to tell yourself that. You have to always tell yourself that. You're the only person who's going to continuously tell yourself that. You're the only person who's continuously going to be there for you. We're learning how to fight for ourselves here, so that we could help others fight for themselves, and so they in turn could help others move along in their life. We're all here for each other, and I kind of lost what I was talking about, but suggestions, yes, self-suggestions, okay, in turn, as they start to become habitual things that you do, like, we are the lights of the world. That's personally my favorite suggestion, self-suggestion, self-affirmation to myself, until it becomes something you habitually do. It becomes known as auto-suggestion, because you do it automatically. It's just a part of who you are. Desire originates in the subconscious mind. It is plainly an emotion, because desire must be mixed with thought. You have to desire that certain thing. That's why in all the success books and successful people talk about the first step towards riches is desiring it. Having the desire to actually make that happen in your life. Well, it's already been 22 minutes. We're gonna read for 5 more minutes, okay? So this video will be about 27 minutes long. Pleasure emotions are the diversions and rewards for service what the subconscious mind renders the body. So when you do something that you believed in and you felt was good, you feel good after you have done that specific thing. You have seen that when any thought, idea, or purpose finds its way into the subconscious through the emotions, the sympathetic nervous system takes up the thought, idea, or purpose and carries it to every part of the body, thus converting the idea, thought, or purpose into an actual experience in your life. Now remember, the sympathetic nervous system has it's connected to every single part of your body, and the conscious part, our cerebral spinal nervous system, is only connected to the skeletal muscular system and the brain. Because it is the subconscious mind that the conscious mind relies upon for its vitality. And we could consciously move our phalanges because it's part of the skeletal muscular system, and the skeletal muscular system is the only system under the control of the conscious portion of the mind. The brain and cerebral spinal, as the sympathetic nervous system controls the cardiac and smooth muscular systems, which are the ones that, your cardiac muscle, your heart, your heart beats automatically. It's under the control of your subconscious. You're sympathetic. You don't have to think about making your heart beat. It does it automatically. And you have seen that with any thought, okay, we already read this, okay, the necessary interaction of the conscious and subconscious mind requires a similar interaction between the corresponding system of nerves, which we're going to learn a little bit about more right now. Okay, the cerebral spinal system is the organ of the conscious mind, and the sympathetic is the organ of the subconscious. The cerebrospinal system is the channel through which we receive conscious perception from the physical senses and exercise control over the movements of the body. Remember, it's the only part which is connected to the skeletal muscular system. And this system of nerves has its center in the brain. The sympathetic nervous system has its center in a ganglionic mass at the back of the stomach, known as the solar plexus, and is the channel of that mental action which is unconsciously supports the vital functions of the body. Unconsciously supports the vital functions of the body, such as the beating of your heart and the flow of your blood. The connection between the two systems is made by the vagus nerve, which passes out from the cerebral region as a portion of the voluntary system of the thorax, sending out branches to the heart and lungs, and finally passing through the diaphragm. It loses its outer coating and becomes identified with the nerves of the sympathetic system, so forming a connecting link between the two, making man physically a single entity. Now that is how you can in turn say the mind, the conscious and subconscious mind, has become one, because the sympathetic system and the solar plexus are two different systems compared to the cerebrospinal and the brain. The cerebrospinal and the brain is what connects to the sympathetic nervous system. Remember, the cerebrospinal is the conscious portion of the mind, and that is what has its vitality and energy and life from the sympathetic nervous system, which is the organs of the subconscious mind, which we rely upon for our life and vitality. And also, I know I mentioned this in another video, but we also want to talk about one of the functions of the sympathetic system. Okay, and I think you guys might really like this, and it'll really help you see the difference between the conscious and subconscious portions of the mind. So, instincts. Okay, instincts are very important. I believe instincts come from, your subconscious mind. You instinctively grab that pen that fell off the floor. You instinctively grab, whatever it is that falls, or you instinctively duck under something that you would have hit, or wake up, to something that if you stayed asleep any longer, something critical might have happened. You're instinctively doing those things. And one of the instincts I want to talk about is when you touch a hot object. You say you're boiling water in a pot, for example, and you accidentally touch the boiling water. Okay, immediately when you touch it, you automatically pull your hand out. Okay, you instinctively did that because your sympathetic nervous system had already distinguished and analyzed that it was hot, and it already pulled your hand away by itself before you even got to the point of consciously thinking like, ow, that was hot, because you're pulling your hand out and your hand's already way up here before it even crossed your mind that the water was pretty hot. Okay, so the sympathetic nervous system is a system of nerves which gathers everything first. It comes in contact with everything first. And the fact that our conscious, self-aware portion of the mind, the seat of our will and the choices that we make is connected and branched to this sympathetic nervous system. That is why we in turn receive things, not even a slightly of a bit second, like maybe 0.00000001 of a second, that it received it after the sympathetic. But I thought you guys might have really liked that, and I think that was a little bit more than 5 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and end this part of the video right here. This was part 1. We still have about 10 pages to go through, so we'll see.